watching the film brought many memories and associations of my long love affair with Iranian food. I've always had Iranian friends and Iranian students, and many of our social life revolved around food, and we had dinner parties and hookups. I remember one occasion on which I had a special, very large cauldron, and it was in this cauldron that a number of my Iranian friends and other Middle Eastern friends got together, and we cooked the best kella pache. Now, I'm, as Carla said, I'm a sociologist, but also a historian, and I'm among my, well, I've been a student of Iran for many years, and I've done quite a lot of work on history, politics, religion, the Iranian Revolution, and so on. But was always very interested in Iranian culture and in food culture in particular. And I've done quite a lot of research and writing on, specifically on food, comparatively, particularly in the Middle East. And I've looked at kind of variations on a theme that you get in different Middle Eastern regions. And I say regions rather than countries, because so much of the food cultures is to do with geography rather than ethnicity. So, you know, when the man in the film says, well, dolma is really Armenian and not Turkish, well, it is Armenian and Turkish and Kurdish, and, you know, it's the people who lived in that part of Anatolia who shared a food culture, and of course, with the development of nationalism, the Kurds say, no, it's Kurdish, and the Arabs say, no, it's Arab, and so on. Now, and one of the important themes is kebab. And, you know, people who don't know think, oh, kebab is kebab. But in fact, you know, there are so many great variations in kebab. And, you know, they have some very interesting and delicious Turkish kebabs, which are really quite different from those also interesting and delicious Persian kebabs. The Persian kebab kubede, for instance, the mincemeat kebab, is unequaled. I mean, it's very interesting. And it was in my early association with the SOAS Padana restaurant in the 1970s. When it started, we used to go to the Padana restaurant and really enjoyed the kebab there. And then I realized why it was so delicious. It has such a lot of fat in it. And it was very succulent, and, you know, among other things, was very well grounded and so on. And the bal kebab, which is quite unique, you know, I haven't seen it anywhere else. So in fact, these elements are really a multitude of elements. And what's interesting was that I understand it, you know, the tradition, of course, most countries, certainly Middle Eastern countries, did not have a tradition of restaurants. So in fact, what you had, public eating, was mostly around the markets and around market stalls. You know, the idea of restaurant where you go, you sit down, there's a menu, and you order, and there are different courses, and so on. I mean, that is really something that developed in France and then expanded in different places. So in fact, the typical public eating in Iran and in many Middle Eastern countries was kebab. You know, so it's kebab and rice is what the restaurants did. And this is what Padana did when it first opened, and many others. And the real sort of variety of Iranian food, Iranian cooking, was really home cooking. And so what I've seen over the years is that more and more of this kind of home cooking, the khoresht, the warma sabzi, and the so on, they very gradually crept into the restaurants. And now sometimes you get some, you know, quite good versions of these in the restaurants. So it'd be very, very good to be reminded of all this and all this history. By the way, one of the people who was interviewed there. I don't think he's here now. Shahro Bakhtari, he's talking about. It's a Austrian culture. It was great nostalgia seeing him there because about over 50 years ago, he and I sat next to one another in a A-level mathematics class in Auburn Polytechnic on Holloway Road. And he was the first Iranian friend that I had, and after that I had many, many more Iranian friends, and for which I have many wonderful memories. Okay, thank you.